Light was a pathetic weakling who failed to become an adventurer after eating a rip-off devil fruit he hoped would make him as strong as Luffy. However, everything changed when he accidentally ate a second fruit and gained an S-rank skill. On the day he ate the fruit, he and Lena, his childhood friend, walked to the church where the fruit-eating ceremony was to take place. On the way, they discussed their potential skills. Light said he wanted a combat-type skill so he could become an adventurer, and Lena said she wouldn't mind getting a skill, which took her head game to the same level as the Guac Guac 3000. When they arrived at the church, they stood with the other skill seekers before the Holy Sister. She was the one who explained that the skill fruit granted special abilities to all those who ate it. Once a person receives these skills, they can work in professions suited to their skills. However, she warned them that whoever ate more than one skill fruit would die, and told them of instances where it happened in the past. Lena was surprised to learn this, but Light wasn't, as it was common knowledge for aspiring adventurers. After the Holy Sister reassured the group that they would be fine as long as they ate just one fruit, Lena picked a fruit, and a few seconds after she ate it, she felt heat enveloping her entire body before it began to glow. The Holy Sister was beyond happy when she realized that the skill Lena received was known as the Sword Saint. According to her, it was an extremely rare skill, and it would allow Lena to go down in history as one of the greatest adventurers to live. When it was Light's turn, he ate the fruit, expecting a super cool skill, but to his utter disappointment, he received the Fruitmaster skill. Lena tried to cheer him up by saying she would become a fruit farmer and help him grow fruits. Annoyed by her declaration, the Holy Sister called Lena a sausage-whipped fool for trying to abandon her destiny for a pathetic loser with no future. She said Lena's skill was supposed to be used for the sake of the nation, and as such, she must become an adventurer. Before Lena could react, the woman told her she would move to the Holy City, and they pulled her out of the room. 3 months later, Light had settled into his new life as a fruit farmer, even though he barely made enough money from the sale of his products. One afternoon, on his way back to his farm, he saw a poster with Lena's picture on it. From what he read, Lena had been promoted to an S rank, and even though he was happy for her, he felt sad that he wasn't the one. Hoping to bridge the gap between him and Lena, he went to the forest to train. However, his swordsmanship was lacking in every way, and when he attempted to split a tree stump in half, he failed. As he lay on the floor wallowing in self-pity, Ayla, the young girl the village chief forced him to take in, came to give him some water. When he was done drinking it, Alia informed him that dinner was ready, so he followed her home. While they ate, Ayla asked how the harvest for the day went, and he said that it was good, especially the skill fruits. He said he wanted to sell the skill fruits and use the money to buy a proper sword. He then instructed Ayla not to touch the skill fruits without his permission, but it was already too late. Ayla admitted that she'd used some of the fruit to prepare their dinner, causing Light to freak out as he was sure he was going to see Jiraiya sooner rather than later. However, after the familiar hotness spread around his body, he was surprised to see he hadn't kicked the bucket and began wondering if he was one of those MCs with cheat-level abilities. The next moment, Ayla was hit with the same sensation since she also ate the food. Light watched as the little girl began talking and saying stuff about his Fruitmaster skill and the sword, God skill, he just acquired. Light asked how she knew all these things, and she told him she could see some words when she looked at him. This helped him deduce that she gained an appraisal skill, so he decided to test and see if what she said about his new skill was true. Immediately, he rushed out of the house with Ayla not too far behind him and went into the forest. There, he picked up his sword and cut the tree stump in half without breaking a sweat. At that moment, he felt like Mihawk and decided it was his time to shine. The next day, he took Ayla with him to the Adventurers Guild so he could register as a rookie adventurer. While there, Light got into an argument with another adventurer named Jean, who accused him of bumping into him. When Light tried to leave to avoid more problems, Jean became annoyed and tried to attack him, but Light easily defended against the attack. Everyone was surprised by this, but since Jean didn't want to lose his street cred, he claimed he went easy on Light. He and his friends then left the guild to go on their mission, and shortly after, Light and Ayla did the same. At the location of the mission, Light and Ayla found a slime, and after using her appraisal skill, Ayla informed Light that the slime had a higher defense than regular slime. With this in mind, Light decided to sneak up on the slime, but since his ninja stealth skills were lacking, the slime noticed him. Changing tactics, he pulled out his sword and charged at the slime before cutting it in half with a single strike. He then instructed Ayla to cut a piece of the slime for them to take back to the guild in exchange for money. Soon after she did this, the two heard someone scream and went to investigate. It turns out that Jean and his friends had encountered an ogre on their quest and were about to become history. Light called out to them, and once Jean saw that it was him, he began running towards him. His plan was simple: lead the ogre to Light and have it squash him like a bug. Once he and his cowardly friends ran past Light and Ayla, the hideous monster turned its attention to them. Light decided there and then that icing the ogre would boost his adventurer's resume, so he pulled out his sword and prepared to fight it. However, Ayla warned him not to get cocky, as his skill doesn't increase his physical strength. With this in mind, he channeled his chakra into his sword and charged at the monster. Using a move he called Demon Slash, he cut the ogre in half and jumped for joy when it fell dead at his feet. While he and Ayla celebrated his win, the three stooges watched from their hiding spot, wondering who on earth Light was. When they returned to the guild, Light presented the ogre's horn to the secretary, who was surprised that a scrawny loser like him had defeated such a monster. Fortunately, Jean's friends vouched for Light and assured the woman that he was the one who defeated it. She then asked Light to wait so she could process the item and prepare his money. While they waited, Light heard the other adventurers whispering excitedly, so he asked what was happening. Blondie explained that the S-rank party known as Sacred was back, so the other adventurers were fangirling over them. When Light spotted Lena among them, he pushed his way to the front of the crowd and tried to speak to her. To his surprise, she told him she didn't know who he was, since she didn't make a habit of associating herself with wannabe swordsmen. It took Light a few seconds to get over his shock after Lena walked away, because he couldn't believe she'd forgotten about him so quickly. Ayla tried to cheer him up by suggesting they go eat, but Light was so depressed that he couldn't take a bite of his pizza. Ayla had to threaten to eat his share before he grabbed a few slices and began wolfing them down. This caused him to almost choke, but Lena suddenly showed up with a cup of water for him. After drinking the water, he was surprised to see Lena, but she clamped a hand over his mouth to keep him from screaming out her name. Once she was sure he wouldn't scream, she took a seat and began questioning his being at the guild. Light explained everything to her and told her to watch out because he was going to catch up to her in no time. Lena was happy after listening to his explanation, but her mood quickly deflated when he asked her to tell him about Scared. She told him that there was nothing great about her party, and said that the Holy Sister had forced her to work with them. She also explained that even though the pay was good, the atmosphere of the party was more toxic than an anime fandom and warned him to stay away from them. Lena didn't try to explain why, but recalled an incident where they had fought a giant snake. One of her party members had used his fire-bending abilities on the snake, but a strong wind had blown the flames towards the nearby farms. When Lena pointed this out, their leader told her that in every war there were casualties, so she didn't have to worry herself about it. Lena felt sorry for the farmers who lost their crops and went to speak to the Holy Sister about it. Surprisingly, the Holy Sister defended the actions of Lena's party members. In the present, Light noticed Lena was crying, but when he asked why, she refused to tell him anything and left. Light and Ayla then returned to the guild to collect their reward, but unlike Ayla, Light didn't seem happy. Ayla questioned his sour mood, and he explained that he was worried about Lena, so Ayla suggested that he speak to Grouse, the leader of Sacred. At that time, Grouse was in the VIP lounge telling stories of his so-called heroic deeds to his thirsty fangirls. However, he was interrupted by the secretary, who informed him that the people of the town he saved had filed a complaint. It turned out that the fire they used during their last quest had dried out the reservoir. Not surprisingly, the pompous idiot said the townspeople ought to be grateful they saved them from the monster. He was still talking about how it was normal to have collateral damage when Light stormed in and confronted him, demanding he let Lena leave Sacred. Grouse assumed Light was one of Lena's loyal fans, so he ignored his words and ordered that he be thrown out of the lounge. As Light stood outside the door, Jean's friends approached him and warned him not to cross Grouse, as doing that would put him on the Holy Sister's bad side. If that happened, his life as an adventurer would be over. The next day, Lena was with her party in the lounge, but she soon became annoyed with their continuous self-praises. Tired of listening to them, she asked Grouse to let her leave the group, causing the others to ask if her head was screwed on right. They asked why she'd want to leave a group which rivaled the Fairy Tale Guild, and she told them it was because they were nothing but a bunch of insufferable jerks whose existence should have been prevented by a rubber. When she tried to leave the room, Grouse used his skill, God's speed, to move faster than the Flash and block her path. Lena attempted to pull out her sword, but he reminded her that her skill was no match for his, so she let go of it. Knowing that he'd won, he slapped her to the floor and embodied Nagato as he began talking nonsense about pain coming with glory. He also gaslighted her into believing that as long as she stuck with them, she would save a lot of lives, even though they caused more damage than a rampaging Godzilla. Later, they left the guild to go on their next quest, so the people gathered to send them off. Before they could leave the city, Light stood in their way and challenged Grouse to a duel. He said that if he won, Grouse would let Lena leave the party, but if he lost, he would leave and never set foot in the city again. Lena tried to discourage Light, but he didn't budge as he was determined to save her from a life of unhappiness. When the fight began, Light defended against Grouse's attack, but acknowledged that he was no match for him. Eventually, Grouse pushed Light back and broke his sword in the process, causing Lena to be worried. Light assured her that he was fine, so she came to stand beside him, just as Ayla did the same, and encouraged him to sweep the floor with Grouse. Annoyed that Lena chose to side with a worthless nobody over him, Grouse swore to teach them all a lesson. Light wasn't fazed and told Sir Duchelot to do his worst, but that was when Ayla pointed out that his sword was broken. Light looked around for something to use, and when he saw someone with a broom, he asked to borrow it. Grouse charged at him, intending to send him to the afterlife, but before he could put his hands on Light, he was smacked 7 ways to Sunday with the broom. Everyone was surprised that Light had won, but Lena was beyond happy, and when Light asked her to join his party, she agreed. A week later, while Light, Lena, and Ayla were having lunch at Lena's house, someone named Noah arrived. He informed Lena that the Holy Sister wished to see her, but Lena refused to go, so he warned her that there would be consequences. The following day, they went to the guild to find jobs, and the secretary informed Lena that she could only take on low-level jobs. Light felt bad because he knew the Holy Sister was trying to punish Lena for leaving Sacred. But surprisingly, Lena didn't mind. She gladly accepted the jobs, and the people were happy to have her helping them with their issues. At the end of the day, they collected their merger rewards, and Lena told Light and Ayla that she was glad she used her skills to help those in need. However, she apologized to Light for being the reason he wasn't experiencing the true joys of being an adventurer. Light assured her that he didn't mind and told her that with time, things would improve. He then informed the girls that he'd come up with a name for their party and told them they would be known as Luxeria going forward. Meanwhile, at the church, the Holy Sister informed Now that she had prepared a high-ranking job for Lena and her new party. Now pointed out that Lena was the only one who would survive the quest, but the Holy Sister said she didn't care. A few days later, Light received a letter from the guild informing them of the quest. Excitedly, they went to the guild, but after hearing the details of their quest, Lena became worried. It so happened that a few months ago, some adventurers went on a quest to an old manor to hunt monsters. However, those adventurers never returned, and all the other adventurers who were sent to find them also never returned. So far, 18 adventurers had gone missing, and among them were Bork and Shara, the 2 adventurers who took Lena under their wing when she first came to the city. Lena tried to talk Light out of taking on the quest, but Light was excited for an opportunity to show his skill, so she agreed to go on the quest. When they arrived at the manor, they were in awe of how large it was and tried to get in by scaling the side of a mountain. Unfortunately, Ayla was no mountain climber, so she lost her footing and would have fallen to her death if Light hadn't caught her. Lena tried to pull the 2 back up, but couldn't because she'd skipped upper body training too many times. As the trio fell, Light used a wind strike to slow them down and prevent them from turning to ketchup stains on the ground. Light felt good that he saved their lives, but the girls called his attention to the fact that they were being surrounded. Immediately, he charged at one of their attacks and cut it in half, but Lena called out to him to observe the monsters. Upon closer inspection, they saw that the monsters weren't monsters, but people, and Ayla confirmed that they were the undead. It seemed they had stumbled into the High School of the Dead, and Ayla warned them not to let themselves get bitten. She also confirmed that the zombies had skills, making Lena say that they were most likely the missing adventurers. Light hesitated to defend against the zombies, but Lena didn't, and told him they had to slay them to set them free. She proposed they check inside the manor for survivors, but when they got inside, they met more of the undead. Without hesitating, Lena stabbed the corpses with flesh in the heart and cut the ones that resembled Brooke in half. Light was amazed by her skill and pushed himself to help her, since he didn't want to be as useless as a certain Team 7 member. While he and Lena fought the undead, Ayla watched them from the door since she had no combat ability. However, that made her an easy target, and just as she was about to be attacked by a low-budget Igris, Lena swooped in and saved her. After Ayla thanked Lena for saving her, Light pointed out that the number of zombies they had encountered surpassed the number of missing adventurers. Lena said the adventurers might have been attacked by the zombies that were already inhabiting the manor. However, since they weren't sure what turned those people into zombies, she suggested they look around for clues. As they made their way through the manor, they were attacked by more zombies, who Light noted were more coordinated than the others they fought before. Using her appraisal skill, Ayla learned that these particular zombies had been tamed and were under someone's control. The next moment, Light spotted some threads and deduced that if they followed them, they would find whoever was controlling the zombies. The threads led them to an empty ballroom, but as they looked around confused, someone who introduced herself as Dratina approached them. Ayla used her skill on her and informed Light that Dratina was a necromancer, which explained why she was controlling the corpses. Light then asked why she was fighting them, and Dratina revealed that she'd been sent there to put him on ice. To stop Lena from helping Light cut down her zombies, Dratina isolated her by putting her against Brock and Shara. Lena had a hard time fighting them because they had both been good to her in the past. Eventually, she cut the threads controlling them and cut them down after she saw visions of them telling her that they were entrusting their dreams to her. On the other side, Light asked Ayla if a necromancer could create the undead, and Ayla said no. This made him question where Dratina was getting her endless supply of corpses. So Ayla said she'd do a deeper appraisal of Drachwina's skill. Dratina didn't appreciate Ayla's snooping and tried to attack her again, but like before, Light saved her. He then called Dratina a coward for trying to hurt a defenseless person and made Ayla climb his back so he could focus better on fighting. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.